All right. I want to see who's here. Video placements. Okay. Oh, get myself comfy here. All right. That is not great quality, which drives me nuts. But hopefully y'all get an idea of what's happening there on the screen. I don't know how to fix the quality on that other than turning the camera over, and I don't know that I want to deal with that right this minute. So, welcome in. Welcome in. Put myself on focus here. All right, it is almost 8 o'clock. We will wait a few minutes. So how is everybody doing? You guys are super quiet.
I'm doing good. How are you?
You know, the usual. I am surviving for the most part.
Yeah.
I put on a bra for you guys. So, you know, feel special. I don't do that for everybody.
I'm not wearing a bra. So.
Hey, fair. I wasn't, and I put on a comfy one instead of like my normal, like everyday going out one. And I was like, well, we'll put on the comfy one. It's better than nothing.
I live in sports bras. That's like all I wear.
That's what this one is like. It's a front closing sports bra. It's like a sleep bra, I guess, is what it's called. But I just
who sleeps in a bra?
Not me.
Like, no thanks.
Not me. All right. I wish I could put two up on the focus screen at a time. That's all right.
Is it a huge deal if you're not working with dried wood? Because I literally got mine today and it was snowing.
No. I mean, I don't think so. I picked up this twig came off the ground outside. I peeled the bark off of it. And it smelled amazing when I peeled the bark off because you could still smell the pine resin inside. But I can't see that it would be a problem. You're not going to be really encasing the stick in anything. So it'll be open to air. So, I mean, I've used like pieces of driftwood in the past for these, but either way. Okie dokie. Now, I'm going to ask a favor because I noticed that Ashley is not here. If somebody wouldn't mind keeping an eye on the text chat in my classes channel, just in case any questions come up, because I can't watch it and record the screen at the same time. So, and on top of that,
I can help with that. I'll do my best.
That would be amazing. Just if you see a question, just shout it out to me and let me know. That way I can keep up with those. And of course, if you have questions at any point in time, please feel free to just stop me and say, hey, I have a question or whatever the case may be. Because I can't I can't focus on that many things at one time. My brain says no, absolutely not. So I moved the camera. So yeah, sorry guys, it's always me working out some kind of technical bug or technical trial and error. So y'all just forgive me. Alrighty. I guess it's 8:03. I guess we probably have everybody that we are going to have, at least at this point. So, yeah, I guess we'll get started. We are going to be making little tiny altar brooms. These guys are about the size of my hand. Um, I enjoy the little ones. They're perfect for keeping on your altar. I mean, I have one that goes over, like, I have one, the big one for my door, that sort of thing. But I just kind of like this for it's great for cleansing the spiritual space. We'll talk about a little bit about the use and the history and that sort of thing as we go. But yeah. Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything before we get started? We'll take that as a no. So, hopefully you have your stick. As you can see, this one I found outside. It's just a little pine twig. It had the bark kind of already peeling off, so I went ahead and peeled the rest of it, and I was left with this really pretty kind of pattern from the pine sap. This is a piece of pine, and it still smells like pine, which is nice. Pine is very protective, so it's a good option. Historically, witches' brooms were made of birch branches, and oftentimes birch twigs, herbs, bundles of herbs, various different things for the bristles. But in this case, we're going to use a stick or piece of wood and some raffia ribbon. This is commonly found in just about every floral department of most stores. And I like using it because it's already dried out. It's, I don't know, a little bit easier to work with than like straw bundles or something like that. So, plus it only cost me $5 for a giant bag. And yeah, you can make several brooms out of a bag this size. So, I've got all my things here. Stuff for decorating. I've got twine for wrapping the raffia to the twig. This is my example piece. I'm just going to move it off to the side so I don't get any glue on it. I've got my hot glue gun, hot glue. I prefer to use hot glue. You could probably use some other kind of strong adhesive. I just prefer hot glue because it's quick and it dries fast, and it doesn't, you don't have to wait for it to dry like you would with like wood glue or white glue or anything like that. But, that is at your discretion. So, very simply, we've got our stick. I am going to take my giant bundle of raffia. I really should have separated this out earlier into some smaller bits, but I didn't. I'm just going to get my scissors and cut some off here. A nice size chunk. Boom. Cut it off. We've got a bit to work with. That should do it. Y'all haven't noticed I love making messes. So. Alright, so the first thing that you would want to do, so I'm going to cut a length of twine about, I don't know, 18 inches long. It's probably too long, but better too much than not enough. And I'm going to take my my piece of raffia here. First thing I want to do is I'm going to tie this in the middle. and create a bundle. Let's see if I can get that about center. I have a little bit of a delay on my classroom camera, so I apologize for that, guys. But so I've made my little bundle here. And the next thing that I'm going to do with that bundle, I'm going to open it up just a little bit, because I'm going to take my stick and I'm going to put it inside about, I'm going to put the knot right about where I would like for the bottom of the broom to start. So once I've done that, I'm going to just run my twine back around the back side here and tie it off. I'm going to go ahead and knot it because we're going to cut this bit of twine. Told you I made too much. I got too much twine. I always do. All right. Now we have this little strange looking package here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the raffia that's sticking up towards the top of the handle, and I am going to fold it down over the piece of twine, as you can see there. And then I'm just going to kind of work it with my fingers all the way around the stick so that it covers the whole thing. I've got some pieces that I'm going to need to cut, but that's okay. We'll get back to that in a minute. So once you have your raffia or your straw or your pine needles or whatever kind of wrapped around, so you get this, I don't even know what to call this little overlap here. I probably should have hot glued that before I folded that over. I'm sorry, guys. Sometimes my brain gets ahead of me and then I make myself feel really stupid. So I apologize. My apologies.
Casey, don't be mean to my friend.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I just made a boo-boo. My brain went like it does. And so yeah, what you want to do, don't do like me. Before you tighten your string, you may want to put a little bit of hot glue in the underneath where the raffia is laying. So back on the back side here, just to keep it attached to the twig. Now I have to figure out how to do this without undoing everything. So bear with me a minute. I'm just going to put some hot glue back here to hold things into place. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's right on the back side. And I'm just going to lay that back in there flat. Okay. Now then, let's do that again. We're going to fold our raffia over and just fluff it around. So it should look like this now, where we have our bundle of raffia at the bottom and our stick at the top. I'm going to go ahead and grab another piece of twine, and then I'm going to again wrap my twine around the bundle on the outside and pull it tight. It is harder than it looks with one hand. All right, so now I have a very messy, it's not ready, it's not quite done yet, but the basic idea, the basic shape of the broom itself is there. As you can see at the top there, you've got your broomstick and your bristles down at the bottom. So now you can just kind of shape it and adjust it, make it look pretty. I'm going to take my scissors to this and cut some of these bits that want to hang funny. And then I'm going to kind of cut off a nice, I'm going to give it a haircut here. So give it a nice bottom. Make sure that if your straw or your raffia has any loops or anything like that in it, that you kind of get those out. All right. Let's get that out of the way. I need a trash can attached to my table here. All right, so we have a very, very rudimentary broom right here. And again, just, you know, trim off any bits that are doing crazy stuff, going places you don't want them to, or whatever. All right. So far, do you guys have any questions? Are we doing good so far?
I'm definitely not doing what you're doing, but I think I'm doing okay.
Hey, that is cool, and I am here for it. I'm just guiding. You do you. Whatever you feel like is the right thing to do is the right thing to do. So now that I've got this guy in this kind of this space here, I like to wrap a little more twine around the top of my broom because I like the way that it looks. At this point, I mean, you could stop here if you wanted to. You have a perfectly functional altar broom, but if you wish, you can take it now a step further and you know, make it pretty. You can decorate it. You can just kind of do your own thing. I'm going to wrap some twine around the top, so I'm going to grab some hot glue here, the bead there. Attach my twine. Don't burn yourself. Hot glue is hot. And then I'm just going to wrap my twine around the base here, pulling tight as I go. I grabbed the wrong piece of twine, which was super great. I just cut a really long piece, and I grabbed this short piece. I'm a mess today, y'all. I'm sorry. I'll glue that down. All right, now you can see my extra bit of twine that's wrapped around the top there. And I brought out a couple of things that I'm going to attach to it. I've got a black feather and a couple of little charms. I've got a key here. I work with Hecate. So I'm going to make a little key for her to put on this broom. You can absolutely decorate this. You could be as extra as you want or as simple. You could put herb bundles in here if you've got lavender, you know, fresh sprigs of lavender or sprigs of, you know, dill or yarrow, anything like that from your garden. You could absolutely incorporate those as well. No. I need another jump ring. Excuse me one moment. So how are we doing? Do you guys have any questions while I'm digging out extra pieces of hardware here? Everybody is quiet tonight. I hope we're all doing okay.
So do you just use your broom on your altar when you're like cleansing?
I do. These kinds of brooms I just use on my altar for cleansing, cleansing the energy. So they don't ever actually touch the surface. They just go just above the surface to clean the psychic energy. But
what? Like, I thought you were gonna actually physically sweep the top of your
I mean, you absolutely could, but I personally like, I don't want to get them dirty. So like I use, I clean my surface with like a paper towel, and some witch hazel liquid, or a lemon spray or something like that, just a cleanser. But then any kind of, if I were using this to clean, it would just be, sweeping the air. But, everybody's got their own way of doing it. That's just how I do it. And so I'm going to slide this feather in here somewhere. Just going to wedge it in, slide it up there to keep it in place. Usually the twine does a pretty good job of holding things in place. You don't have to worry about gluing them down or anything. Of course, this is a not fluffy feather, so it's trying to twist on me. Let's try something a little bit different there. Of course, there's hot glue. It doesn't want to go through the hot glue. All right. You know what? I don't like that. I'm not feeling it. Okay. Change of plans. Because, that's how the crafting process works. We're just going to put the charm on it because I can't get the feather to do what I want it to do. So, in order to put my little charm on there, I have run it through some twine again. And I'm going to wrap the twine, hot glue it down in the back. I like hot glue. It helps to make things easy. Trim off that extra bit. All right, so now that I have my charm on the front there, I'm just going to wrap some more of this twine around to hold it down. Make sure that it doesn't fall off. This is probably way overkill. I don't need to put this much twine on it, but it's what's happening is happening. I don't have any rhyme or reason for it. You could absolutely get a large needle and run the twine back up through, and all of that good stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to snip it off. And
I'm making an absolute mess right now.
Hey, I am here for messy witchcraft. That's what we do. We make messes. That is what I am. I sponsor that 100%. Be messy. Get dirty. Make messes. Whatever makes you happy. So yeah, there we go. really simple little altar broom. So now that we've done all of the making, we can do some talking. I'm going to turn off the video on the second camera here. All right. Woo! Big green screen. Just bear with me a minute, guys, while I change my view. There we go. So, real simple. Hopefully you thought that was simple. I think they're fun to make. If you get lucky, certain times of the year, Dollar Tree, Dollar General carry various types of like miniature cinnamon brooms. I buy up as many as I can when I see them, and then I decorate them and sell them. But you know, they're great because a lot of times they're scented, so they already have like they're cinnamon scented, which is great for, keeping at your front door, for inviting in positive energy, abundance, that sort of thing. It's also protective. So I can't get it back in the bag, of course.
Casey, can I show you what I'm working with here?
Let me see. I would love to. Let me see what you got.
I look a bit chaotic right now. I apologize.
That's cool. Oh yeah, I love that. That looks awesome.
It's definitely not done, but this is the so far.
That is cool. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Having fun.
All right. You know what? I'm done trying to put this back in its bag. I will do it later when I'm not trying to. I'm distracting myself. I have squirrel brain. Tell me you have ADHD without telling me you have ADHD. So, do you guys want to talk a little bit about brooms and why we use them, where they come from, all that good stuff? Since you're here, I got you captive. Give me a second here to change my stuff.
Had me captive since day one.
Aw, I love you. Give me a second to change my...
Oh, I love you.
My perspective here. Change up my screens. Bear with me a minute, guys. I'm going to bring up some info because I found some good info, but I can't memorize all the stuffs. So, I want to. All right, so let's talk a little bit about brooms. So, let's see. How did brooms become associated with witches? Does anybody know? No? Okay, I'm going to tell you.
When Hocus Pocus was released, then brooms.
Fair. Right?
I am joking.
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into the history and folklore of the broom. We are not going to talk about witches flying on brooms so much because that gets a little bit into like the psychotropic drug area. Flying ointments and that sort of thing. Hopefully everybody here is not a minor, and I'm certainly by no means endorsing the use of psychotropic drugs to go flying. So now that I've said that, I feel like you can't really talk about brooms without talking about the history of witches flying on brooms. So I'm going to try to keep it PG because this is going to be going up on YouTube once it's finished. So, the first reference to witches riding on brooms was the year 1453. A clergyman named Guillaume Edelin confessed to making a pact with the devil and flying to the Sabbath on a broomstick. The idea of flying ointment, a cream or salve that allowed witches to fly, also dates back to around this time. So this is the first written record we have of witches flying on brooms. And obviously brooms were historically, and in some cases still are, associated with women. Women take care of the home. In the early periods, obviously, you had homes with dirt floors, and you had to sweep the extra dirt out to keep, rats, pestilence, that sort of thing at bay. So, brooms became a kind of symbol for a housewife, a woman at home. Obviously, many women's main duties consisted of taking care of children, looking after the home, working in the yard, animals, housework, cooking, that sort of thing. Women were also expected to tend to their husband's needs at all times, but keeping the home clean was a constant chore. Obviously, we've already talked about dirt attracting rodents, which would bring deadly diseases and that sort of thing. So, there were two everyday household items that became associated with women, and that was broomsticks and bread. And that is actually where the story or the first mentions of flying witches comes from. I'm sure that you have heard I'm sure if you've heard anything about the witch trials, the Salem witch trials, the hysteria, the myths, or I guess they're theories. We don't call them myths so much anymore, but the theories of ergot and ergot poisoning. A lot of the bread eaten at the time was rye. Rye bread produced the fungus called ergot, which eaten in large quantities could cause death, but in smaller quantities produced hallucinations. Obviously, human beings are human, and when they come across something that, as this site that I'm reading from says, adds a little excitement to their lives, they want to know more about it. So people experimented with ergot, but of course other plants as well that had hallucinogenic effects. So the problem, though, with these plants a lot of times was that eating them would cause you to be violently ill. But they could be absorbed through various membranes, mucous membranes, that sort of thing on the body, and create the hallucinogenic effects without the nausea, vomiting, all of that stuff. So, everybody okay? Are we still good? I'm not making anybody sick, am I? But it looks,
there are no comments in the chat, so I'm going to assume you're good.
Okay, good. I find this stuff fascinating. I look at it in a very clinical way. It doesn't really make me, it doesn't make me queasy or anything like that. And as I often tell people, I'm a mom, so I have seen it all, smelled it all, and touched most of it. So,
I love
It
the
doesn't
ergo
bother
or
me,
ergot
but I know other
poisoning
people
theory.
are queasy and that sort of thing. So, and I'm sorry, Lo, I just talked all over you. What did you say?
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. I just said that, like, I love the ergot poisoning theory. I think it's so fascinating.
I think it's really cool. Um, so, but they discovered that the places where the ointment seemed to be most easily absorbed were in the armpits, which I found interesting because this is the first time I've actually heard about that. And then, of course, the thin mucous membranes of the genitals, which is why in 1451, the first known depiction of witches riding on broomsticks, we see that in a manuscript by Martin Lefranc. I'm terrible with pronunciation, so just indulge me. Uh, but yeah, so that's kind of the fun story behind the flying ointments and flying witches, which is riding broomsticks. Now, now that we've had that bit of fun, um, and obviously, yeah, there's a lot of manuscripts that talk about how witches confessed to anointing staves and riding them to the appointed place or anointing themselves under the arms. Um, yeah, so hallucinogenic drugs.
Yeah, but they would have confessed after being thrown in jail for like a week and starved, so that's fun.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like we have these great historical records, um, but we also have to think about the levels of abuse and torture that were happening to induce some of these confessions. So yeah, so that's, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting, like you have to kind of, obviously having the written record of the confessions and that sort of thing is interesting, but a lot of times these people weren't witches. They were just lower class members of the community. They were people with a serious grudge, which you see a lot. You know, so and so slighted me, so I'm going to accuse them of being a witch. Which harsh, like wow. Um, and a lot of people who had way too much time on their hands, unfortunately, led to a lot of these situations. But beyond the uh, you know, the witches flying on brooms, brooms also are a traditional symbol of fertility. They are said to be representative of both the divine masculine in the stick of the broom and then the divine feminine in the bristles themselves. So, and of course, it's also thought to promote fertility to people or to the land, which is why you have things called broomstick weddings. You have histories of people jumping over a broom to get married. Especially, these happened a lot in enslaved cultures where people were enslaved. They were not allowed to marry. So they used the symbolism of jumping over the broomstick to kind of be the officiant. So they weren't allowed to do it legally. So this is how they sealed their marriage vows, metaphorically. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Um, but yeah, so let's see. In ancient Rome, wise women, sacred midwives had special brooms that were meant to sweep negative energies away from a house where a baby had just been born. And this is possibly the precursor to the way that we use things like an altar broom to sweep the negative energies off of our place of working before we do it. So, yeah. Let's see. In witchcraft in general, the symbolism of and use of brooms, we've got used for protection, warding off evil spirits, and then cleansing of ritual spaces. So not anything surprising there. But let's see. It can be used, broom can be used as a doorway. So if you happen to work with a magic circle, I myself do not. But if you do happen to work within a magic circle, you can place, once you have placed your circle, you can walk inside the circle and then place the broom across the entryway that you came through. And that will protect anything, any negative energies from following you into the circle. Which is kind of neat. This is something that I discovered that I actually found it was very neat. During the burning times in Europe, brooms were used to hide wands and various tools for summoning spirits. So there's actually a few finds of ancient brooms that have hidden compartments, which have things like herbs, oils, feathers, and other objects hidden inside, which I think is pretty neat. So, questions, comments, anything you want to discuss more about? I'll take that as a no. Everybody's very quiet. It's weird. It's weird to be the only one talking.
It's really cool. I like it.
So, a little bit of etymology.
Here, Casey. I'm here for you.
Oh, what? Say it again.
I said, I'm doing my best, Casey. I'm here for you.
No, you're doing great. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for giving me like conversation feedback. I feel like I always feel very silly, and Carrie is usually my question asker when she comes to my classes. So she's not here tonight. I know she's off having fun friend time. So it's just kind of weird. Like, she's always just throwing questions at me, which keeps me going because I'm like, I really don't know what you guys want to hear. So I'm just going to keep babbling until you ask me a question. Hydration. Very important.
I've heard that the ergot theory, there's been some, to jump back in the conversation a bit, that there's been actually some, like, there's still academic debate as to the validity of that theory. So, specifically in regards to, like, the Salem trial.
Yes. So there's a lot of debate, about whether or not ergot poisoning, whether it caused the hysteria. Obviously, most of us are on TikTok. And my personal opinion is that maybe at some point there was that, but I don't think the ergot poisoning caused the hysteria. I think that was strictly mob mentality. And it just, as other people fed into it, it escalated. But again, I am not, I am by no means an expert on witch trial hysteria or anything like that. It's just in the reading that I've done. That, to me, seems like the most logical explanation.
As far as the Salem trials go, I would agree with you, because but like the Salem trials are the only ones I've actually read much history on. Right. I could not speak to like the European trials. But from what I have heard, if ergot poisoning might have been involved in a lot of the different trials, but the main thing might have just been, the seeking of power and, the Puritan religion and acting of the girls involved in their hysteria. Mm-hmm. They were acting. Right. They weren't.
And I agree with that. I think that it was definitely because, and with the Salem witch trials, actually, the Salem witch trials are very unique because most of the accusers were young girls, which you don't see in the majority of the European witch trials. A lot of times with that, you have accusers who are neighbors, and maybe, one neighbor slighted the other. And as a result, somebody got pissed off, basically, and then accused their neighbor of witchcraft. Which is like, I don't know. I think to myself, there are so many better ways you could have handled that. Like, why is that your go-to? Like, you made me mad. You must be a witch. I'm going to accuse you of witchcraft. But I think also, like, historically, think about it. I mean, for me, like, I look at it. I mean, there was a point in time in our history where, like, public hangings were a very real thing, and people would go, and it became like a spectator sport,
like an entertainment kind of thing, like
which just, humans are
insane.
Yeah, and especially like when you get large numbers of humans together. Obviously, I mean, I am one who always says, like, an individual can be very, very smart, but as a group, the level of intelligence is only as smart as the least intelligent member. So when you get into those mob situations, people just start hurling accusations left and right. And you see that, I mean, many of the ones that I have read, whether it's, I mean, some of the ones I just went through recently, like the Pendle witches, the Osith, witch trials. I mean, it's literally like it started because someone was accused of being a witch, and then they said, well, we will forgive you if you will confess and tell us. And so that person accused then turned around and accused everybody, as like retribution in some way. So I was like, wow, you guys need to be nicer to your neighbors. But it's just, I mean, objectively, when you're looking at it as I mean, obviously I am super, super glad that I am alive now and not then.
Same.
Because I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty good at holding my temper in, but I
would probably be ostracized.
Sally down the road would pop off, and
if you find the sort of psychology of it interesting, there's a relatively new podcast from BBC Radio 4. It's called The Coming Storm.
Ooh.
Now, I know we're not supposed to talk politics here. The take it takes is it's the fellow's talking about the mob mentality that was involved in the January 6th riot.
Ooh.
And he's actually drawing a lot of parallels to the events that led up to the witch trials in England. And he goes, to the witch's hammer and conveniently the advent of the printing press at the same time. And he's drawing press, meaning it can be, and the dark web, meaning that modern conspiracy theories can be mass distributed. And it's just a fascinating podcast if you're into that kind of thing.
Well, I love a good podcast, so I am definitely going to check that out, because that sounds really interesting, because the psychology of it does really interest me, especially like, I mean, I love studying why people do what they do, why they believe what they believe, why they think what they think, that sort of thing, which is why world religion has always been so fascinating to me, because I can see it from a very, objective point of view. Like, I can understand why an ancient culture was polytheistic. I can understand why they found divinity in all of the different things, right? So regardless, I find things like that fascinating, which is why I think the witch trials always interested me so much, because if you look at it in the scope of the time and the things that people were dealing with, And you mentioned the advent of the printing press, and that's that is very interesting too, because with that you get, obviously it starts to bring on this age of enlightenment, because suddenly people are learning how to read because books are more easily accessible. Which then you see, these ridiculous treatises with insanely long, like 17-word names.
Yeah.
The treatise of John, a man of this town, who says this about these people who may have been witches, and these, the bands that were posted on doors and that sort of thing. So you have this increasing taking in of knowledge. But again, you still have that narrative being spun by people in power or people with money. It was never the poor writing these treatises, you know what I mean? So it's just very interesting. It's a very interesting way to look at human thought and activity, why they do what they do. Yeah. So, I'm sorry if you guys can hear my son.
On my
My son is yelling in the bathroom at the mirror. He's autistic and he finds the bathroom to be the coolest place to talk to himself, I guess. He stares in the mirror and makes faces and talks and has conversations with himself. I don't know.
Well, the acoustics will be amazing. That's why singing in the shower sounds so good too, right?
I never thought about it that way, but there's a mirror on the back of our bathroom door, and then of course the mirror over the sink. And he'll get in there and close the door and talk to himself for half an hour, 45 minutes. Like, he used to practice making faces when he was smaller. He's 11. But when he was younger and he was trying to, I don't know if it was, I wonder, now that I'm learning more about autism and being an autism parent, like, I was wondering, like, he was practicing his masking abilities. He was practicing making faces, and almost self-judging those faces, to either, I guess, mentally decide that was an appropriate face for XYZ situation. But just an interesting thing. So I was that's what happens. A squirrel brain. Do you guys have any more questions on brooms?
Can I show you mine?
Yes, I want to see.
An update?
Let me see.
Video.
I'm going to make it big so that I can see it. Oh, it looks wonderful. I love the pine needles as the bristles. And I love
That's
that you
awesome.
wrap the handle. That looks fantastic, Lo. Good job.
Like, you can't see the little pentacle there on the top.
I love it. I almost put a pentacle on mine.
I think it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, it looks great.
I think it's awesome.
Good job. I love it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. That's great. Yeah. Oh, we almost made it. We almost made it to an hour. I could chatter for another 7 minutes, but I'm just excited to talk to other people, grown-ups. I get to talk to grown-ups.
Same.
Yeah, that is. If you guys don't have any more questions or anything, that's pretty much all I have on brooms. Interesting tidbit I'm going to share with you guys, because I shared it with TikTok today, and I thought, what the heck? I came across, I was doing some research, and obviously we all know that smudging is a sacred Native American practice, and we, people who look like me, don't get to use it, right? We know that, yes? Yes. But I came across a term, or a word. It is an old West Saxon word called, it is an old West Saxon word, recaning, and it's spelled like recaning, but it is pronounced recaning, and it means to smoke cleanse, or to cleanse with smoke. So there is a cool, it feels a little bit more witchy than smoke cleansing as a term to use if that's your jam. So, interesting note.
So that would be RECANING?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And it is pronounced like reek, R-E-E-K, reekening. And oftentimes in Old and Middle English, when they were doing this reekening, they would use juniper to cleanse the space around times of birth and death, anytime that someone was sick, or because juniper has has antimicrobial properties and that sort of thing. So, just an interesting alternative to the term smoke cleansing, if that's your jam.
Nice, thank you.
You're welcome. I got a little one singing in the background.
Nice.
They have apparently decided that they have stayed quiet for long enough that it is now time to make as much noise as possible. So, if no one else has any more questions, I'm gonna call it here and stop recording and all that stuff.
Thank you very